Hi everybody, I'm Henry from Excellent Analytics. This tutorial video is essentially to show how this linear trend or average trend line in a yearly or monthly basis were set up using DAX formula of the Power Pivot. And this is also the part 3 or the last part of setting up your forecasting to Excel. Without further ado, let's set up your forecasting tool. Now, let us shape our first user interface through this pivot table. To begin with, the data were already in place to our Power Query. Just in case of you haven't seen how this Power Query is set up, just check my previous video. And also through Power Query, they were transferred and connected into this data model. So we should have at least 5 tables here. So mainly we will be using this combined table and the main date and the unit price. So let's begin by bringing down this data into this pivot table, then press OK. Then as mentioned, the combined table is the main table that we're going to use, and all the DAX formula will be put here as well. Okay, let's bring down this state first into the row, then after the state, customer, and we can remove the subtotal and convert this pivot table that we did into a tabular form. And no grand total. Okay, we just put a grand total on for rows only, but without subtotal. Then let's bring down our data completed orders into these values and the week orders. So if you notice, they are here in this field. Then, of course, the date. Date is the important. We need to use this instead, not the date that's showing here in combined table, but rather this one. So let's bring down this date here over this column header, then the month. Where's the month? There you are. The month is here. Okay, these completed orders and the sum were actually situated in the column. We wanted them to be in this row instead. So let's bring down these values over here, and there you are. Then let's remove the subtotal of each year and month, then collapse them so that you will see all these 4 years of data. Okay, as you notice that the WIP, as you understand, is actually a work in process. It means it is the WIP orders haven't been completed yet, is ongoing in production. So that's why the data of WIP orders is just shown here in year 2021. In order to create a trend line, we need to include the WIP orders to the completed orders as well, so that we can get good prediction. So to do that, we need to add a measure. How to add a measure? Just hover cursor to the combined table, right click, then add measure. Then let's call it total order. Then our first formula is sum. You can actually use this or actually create a new one that's specific for completed orders. Then you just add sum of orders with the width. The width is just here, hiding. Okay, it's here. Okay, so this is better so that no errors in the future. Press OK. Then let's bring down that new calculated DAX measure with this total order, which is here. Now you can see it here. Now let's try to sort the grand total from largest to smallest. Okay, reason. Okay, yep, here it is. Let's try to collapse all into one column and largest to smallest. There you are. And if I'm going to put some bar chart within the cell, it should look like this. Yeah. Now, since we have these total orders, we will no longer needing these completed orders and the week because our forecasting should be based on the total orders. So the next thing to do is to add costs. This is a more exciting one because we will be needing this data model to insert our formula. Just go to this data, then click this manage data model, and by right should appear here. This is the unit price that we need to look and multiply to the total orders. Okay, currently there's no total orders in this column because it's just hiding here. Here the total orders. So what we need is to put some total cost here in dollar form. Then enter, and the formula that we're going to use is somewhat similar to lookup value, but lookup value is more flexible because it can look at multiple columns and reference. So lookup value, and here it is, and the result column name that looking for is actually the unit price column from the other table, which is the unit price table, unit price column. Then the search column name is actually from the same table, which is the unit price, and that we should base or refer to, which is the material number. Here is. Then I'm trying to make additional space just in case so that it is more readable. That's the reason why. Okay, this one no need more space. I already put it on the next line. Okay, what's the search value? The search value is the current table that we are putting on this formula, which is the combine, and the reference of course should be the same, which is the material number. If I'm going to enter this, you will see that the unit price is now here. Now let's multiply this to the total orders that we calculated earlier. Now this is the total cost. All we need to do is to convert it into dollar sign currency. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's go back to our pivot table and let's bring down the costs. The reason why it's not a function because we put it in a column. Total cost is now here. Okay, here it is. Sum of the total cost is here. Okay, we need to use comma as well so that everything is uniform. Okay, since this is order, we don't need a decimal, but we need a comma. Then that's it. I want this smaller font so that can fit. Yeah, here it is. Let's remove these decimal as well so that everything is fitted into regulated column. There. Okay, now we can do refresh and now the smallest. Then now let's change the design into a more readable color. Here it is. Here you go. Now let's add slicers and charts. As you know, a slicers is important in filtering the items faster. And I will show you some trick in making a chart here because this is actually a different format of a pivot table. We cannot directly make a chart here where we wanted the x-axis in a date format. So let's begin by clicking this Analyze tab, Insert Slicer, and initially let's add the slicer of the state, customer, city. Then press OK. Then we'll add the timeline as well. Insert timeline. Then use this main date instead, not the date of combined table, or else it will make your pivot table slower in filtering all those dates. Then put the state here, then the customer in the left side, then the city. Okay, let's divide this into 7 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, city should be around 3. And this let's leave these customers as is. And now let's format the properties that they should not move around when the cells or the columns move. Don't move for size with cells. Okay, then the chart. The chart is a bit tricky one. If I make a chart directly from this pivot table, it will show like this. You need to use the line chart with a marker. You'll notice it's a bit cluttered and messy. This is not the chart that we're looking for, because the chart that we're looking is actually should have a date here in the x-axis or a timeline. Even though I filter it, it should not be like this. It's very cluttered and messy and cannot really understand going on. So the trick here is that we need to make a hidden pivot table chart that is in different format, this pivot table. How to do that? Just copy this, then create a copy, then let's name it hidden because we were going to hide this later on. It should not be appear here, and the color should be black so that everybody knows this is a something that should be hidden. And the secret here is that right click this chart, then select data, then switch row and column. It's more than the 200. So all we need is to select state. There you are. Okay, we need to remove the customer because we will not be needing that. Let's select the pivot table and remove the customer. And of course, we don't need the total cost because we need to predict or do a trend line using the orders, not these costs. Okay, now we are beginning shaping our data. Let's add more rows, and that's it. Let's shape it here. Give me time to format everything. And I want this chart to be in a bold way by selecting the design and use this chart style 15. There you are. Okay, looks good. Looks nice. Okay, of course we don't need this one. Okay, all we need is to cut this chart and bring it here. Then of course we need to format, and it should not move along with the cells of the column. Then insert, make more space for the chart. There you are. Then of course let's expand and expand. You can change the color format on this slicer just like this. Simple as it. Then remove this original. Okay, if you select this slicer, the chart won't update. Reason for that, because we need to do some report connection. Click this as well so that the pivot table in the hidden worksheet is communicating in this chart. Similarly, in this one, also this as well, and this one as well. Okay. Good to see. Now we're able to place the rows into, let's say, the material description, and also the material number, just like this. And let's remove the total or the subtotal of each column. This is automatic in pivot table. There's a way that we can remove this immediately by setting up. Okay, here it is. Let's say California is everything is interactive. Now let's get into the trend line. Trend line is useful because it predicts the trend, whether increasing or decreasing. As you know, when I add a trend line in this pivot table, add trend line, and it will show just a very straight line beginning from year 2018 to year 2021. The trend line that we are looking for is actually yearly basis. It is somewhat similar like this. I already prepared some line here so that we are a bit productive. So how to do this? Let's get back to this our hidden worksheet. This is where we're going to formulate our trend line. So before anything else, let's assess this pivot table, and let's see if we can make a trend line just for this year 2018. Let's do some repeats and copy the data here and put it here. Okay, we don't want the grand total. No need for the grand total. Let's remove the grand total of everything. Then that's it. Okay, if I'm going to make a trend line here using the scatter plot capability that we're able to create a trend line, you will notice that the x-axis is in the integer. We wanted this x-axis in the date mode because the scatter plot chart can't recognize this as a date. So we need the proper date here by different items. Let's replace this month by a start month. This is the reason why we created the start month upfront, so that all the daily transaction of each month is aggregated in the first day of the month, which is makes sense because we are doing forecasting. So we just wanted in advance everything. So copy this date and put it here. There you are. And let's see if scatterplot is able to predict by adding trend line. Yeah, can, and there is the equation. This is the equation that we are looking for. Let's make it bold. It means the slope is negative 5.8 and the y-intercept is 252. Okay. This is very interesting. So how to get this equation? We're going to formulate it to DAX by adding the measure. If I copy this equation and put it side and replace the x by the date, because that is we need to make it general, and this is actually the data that we're looking for. Notice that it is almost actually it is the same of this trend line, not 449. Okay, so where to get this linear regression formula? Just Google it. The B is actually the slope and A is this intercept, y-intercept. So to understand more about this linear regression, you just look on these statistics, just explains everything. And where to get linear regression DAX formula? I got it from here, from XXLBI, from Mr. Daniel. He did a great job in sharing this DAX linear regression. So we just copy this one, the whole thing, and we just replace all these necessary known x and known y. Just add them. This we can add our DAX measure here or in this data model. Okay, for now, let's put our DAX formula here just beneath this initial DAX formula we did previously on the total order. So let's name it linear trend and equals, and just paste it. Paste the whole thing. I already copy it, then paste. Straightforward. The reason why error, because we haven't changed this one. We need to change this by our own term. The term should be start of the month, because that is the start of the month we use, so that no errors is shown later. Then the measure y, it should be total orders. You see, this is the y and this is the x-axis. And also similarly, we need to replace this into our own term, which is the start of the month, aggregated to the first day of the month, and that's it. Then enter. There is no error. Then let's get out from this data model and let's assess. Let's move our data here. We need to assess by adding the linear trend function into the values box. Let's remove the decimal. It's just hiding the decimal, by the way. It won't remove or rounded. Let's just hide it. Okay, here it is. Here's the value of the one that we calculated manually, and here's the DAX calculation. How come they're not exactly the same? Of course, we need to add additional decimal here, and put it maybe 8. 8 will do, then without a comma, of course, then that's good enough. Then copy this one and this, replace the old one, then substitute this X by this date, then enter, and voila, we have now the exact result. So it means this DAX calculation is working. Okay, let's now check it here. There you go, here it is. We can now remove this demonstration line. We need to replace this as well, because the calculation of DAX will be affected if we put this linear trend over here. So show the field and remove this month and replace by our own term start of the month. There you go. Now we now able to bring down this linear trend after total orders rather. Then you can change the color so that easy to read. Then linear trend should be the same. Okay, should be the same color as this. There you are. The total order should be in really a dark font, and this linear trend should be in the light font. There you are. Of course, we need to remove the decimal so that it's cleaner to look at. And comma, use comma. There you are. Now here's the trend. It's actually almost the same as average, but with inclination. Okay, now let's review our trend line for any issue. Oh, I see the issue now. There's a negative value here. The trend line is actually the orange. There shouldn't be a negative. There should be a 0 if it in case less than the 0. So we will correct it. Let's go back to our DAX formula. So in this case, let's put it in this manner. Return, then let's remove this, then let's replace this by var predicted sample y1, then equals, okay, no error. Then we'll use another predicted term and y2. Then if the predicted, oh, IntelliSense showing predicted one, that's good. Yes, predicted y1 is less than 0, then it should be 0. Then else it is predicted y1. There you are. And of course, the final return value, it should be predicted y2. Then enter. Let's see how it responds. It should be 0. Come on. There you are. That's good enough. Now it seems the color, let's format this a bit in a faster way, because let's put this into this left side of the chart, and this value, it should be in this right side or to the high side, or we can put it into display as 100 so that it will not create much more space, and this is how it is necessary, and 100 should appear here so that the audience know that it's in hundreds. There you are. The next task is to formulate the slope. The slope is helpful to indicate the rate of increase or decrease of the trend, especially when the value is placed in the pivot table in a yearly basis. This is also useful to quickly sort out and determine which products or states are increasing or declining demand. So let's get into this our hidden worksheet that is supposed to be hidden later on, and assess our slope and what the slope value should look like. So let me copy this data from year 2018 to year 2020. So as you can see here from my ready-made scatterplot chart, this is the trend line and this is the equation. This is only for the year 2018. The equation showing the slope is negative 5.8, which is pretty much low based on the differences of this trend line month by month. Because if I'm going to calculate it manually, it should look like this. First, let me get into this simple calculation of differences of each month, and let's average it. Then Oh, this is the slope that we are looking for, the negative 176. If I'm not mistaken, this slope in this equation is in radian form. So we need to do more calculation to get this number, negative 176. Let's start using the DAX formula we did previously on the trend line. Open the data model, then this is the DAX formula that we did. As you notice that this slope is already here, so all we need is to trim down this formula, and let's get into this slope right away. Then put our formula here just beneath this linear trend, and let's name it by our own term rate, because slope is also a rate. So colon, then equal, then paste. Then let's remove this old name, and we need to trim down from intercept until here. Then we need to return the value of slope. Okay, then let's enter. Then let's get into this our pivot table, and let's bring down this slope rate into these values, and let's see how it happens. So as you notice, the result is still the same as the equation. So it means that we need to add more formula, which is to get the difference between the month and the previous month. Then let's average it. So let's do that by using this DAX formula. Let's put it var, and let's call it average slope. There you go. Then we need to use calculate function, because this one has a good filter table. Then average, let's use it AverageX function. Then the first parameter, it looks table should be all selected, and all selected based on our date, the whole date. Then the difference, now the expression of this average, we need to put the date difference, because we need to get the difference between this month and the previous month. Okay, date 1 is actually the previous month, so let me use EO month. It's a bit ironic here because of I have a start of the month and I have a end of the month. Then of course, because that is a previous month is -1, then the date 2 should be the current month, EO month. Then of course main date and start of the month, then of course 0 current month. And the interval, it should be the days, a daily basis. Values -1 and 0 means this is per day. Then we need to multiply this average to slope, because this one is in radian form, so we can right away use it. Then of course the last parameter of calculate function is all selected based on the main date table. Then let's put some indentation, and I think there is no error here. Yes, there is no error. And let's bring down, oh, it's already here, so we just wait. I forgot put the return value, or update the return value. The return value should be the average slope, and we need to put it here. Come on, there you are. The value is very near to this 176. Okay, the reason not that accurate because of we did not include this January, because if I include it, it's nowhere to get the other component of the subtraction. Okay, let's copy this and paste it here. Let's see how it differs. Almost the same. Yeah. So of course this DAX formula is more accurate than the one that I did. Looks good. Now this is the time we need to put the slope here. Oh, we need to get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, let's get rid of the slope in this pivot table, because this pivot table is actually communicating in this chart. This chart belongs to that pivot table, this hidden worksheet. Okay, let's put this slope under this linear trend. There you are. We need to format it, and let's put it number 0. with the comma, then there you are. That's okay. Okay. Now let's put some indicator of increasing or decreasing demand for orders by hovering and make sure the arrow is pointing to the right. Then that's the time you're able to cover all this slope. Then go to the home and conditional formatting, and then you can use this icon set already restated, but let me see if this one is possible. This pivot table formatting, let's try this pivot table, all the pivot table one, should appear, then new role, then all cells showing slow rate values, then let's try something here. Oh yeah, now format all cells based on their values, then select icon set, then icon set should be, I like arrow there, then should be a greater than 0 because this is a number, and greater equal is just leave it there 0 because there's nothing more choices except this one, and like that. Okay, so all the 0 should be around this yellow arrow, then apply, then that's okay. There you are. Now let's get the top most increasing demand last year, 2020. Click this one, then sort, then largest. Very confusing when this are near to the adjacent. Let's put some boundary. Boundary is show, then more borders, then let's put it probably this gray, light gray, so that we can see rather than white. There we go. Now it's more visible that this owl belongs to this number. So as you notice, they were already arranged from largest to smallest. You can do this as well, from here to there. It is sometimes advantageous having a second table somewhere here that summarize the topmost volume runners per state, or let's say per location or per customer. So let's get into this having second pivot table then. So let's insert pivot table, use workbooks data model, existing worksheet. Then under the combine table again, let's bring down the states to the row, then the city, then the customer. Then let's convert this design into tabular form. Grand total, rows only, subtotal, no, do not subtotal. Then let's collapse. So of course we need to bring down also this date year only, or we can use both month as well. Then we just collapse. So let's remove this. We can use this date month. We will not employ some trend line here or any slope. Then we can collapse this as well into a yearly basis. Then this time, of course, total orders should be on the values only. Okay, now let's change this design similar to this the color used by our first pivot table. And there you are. Now we can also put some boundary as well. Let's say this borders, and can use the light gray so that it's visible. Then employ some bar chart within the cell. Let's say this, and bar chart, and let's change the color. It should be a bit lighter. Bit lighter is okay. I think this one is okay. A mint. Then of course this the gun total, we can use the darker one, or we can change it into a bit lively color. Let's say this. Yeah, that should. Now we can sort from largest to smallest. So that looks good. Now the last thing that we need to do is we need to connect all the slicer to this second pivot table. Let's begin on the date. Yes. See, we need to check everything. Report connection. Yes, and customer as well, and material description. Okay, let's try to connect these states. Let's see what's happened. If I connect it, it will hide the rest of the states, so we unable to see all the second, third, fourth, and the other states. So what I'm gonna do, I will disconnect this, and clear the filters so that we are able to see which one has the topmost. Let's say 2018, and that's it. So that we know the performance each year of every state, let's say city or customer. So it depends on you. Uh, Next, it is also important to, let's say, find all the top regular monthly orders versus the irregular or intermittent monthly orders. Let's say for this example, you notice a vacant year or hollow in a year, and we wanted to find out how many orders occurred within the other years. So it is, for example, if I expand this year 2020, you've noticed that this product 1A92 has only 3-month aggregated orders occurred within this year. So it is good to sort them out or in to find out more about their behavior so that the supply chain is able to allocate inventory and storage for those two scenarios of irregular and regular monthly orders. So let's start to add measure 5 to help us to identify which orders has irregular and regular orders. Let's add measure, then let's call it monthly continuous orders. The formula is simple only. We just count the rows using the counter, count the values of the total orders, and of course the table that we need to use is all selected. Main date based on the main date of start of the month. Then basically we need to count all the rows with having a total orders in a monthly basis. And then no errors. Then just bring down these monthly orders just below this total cost, and there you are. Actually, we can name this total cost into a shorter so that you can see it. Now you'll notice that this, if I expand this year 2020, it counts the 3-month transaction within this year. So now let's say total of 11 transaction or monthly transaction, aggregated monthly transaction from the span of 2018 to 2021. Let's sort it from largest to smallest. Okay, reason why it did not respond, we need to ensure that this column is remained one column, and that's the time that we're able to sort it out. Okay, now you notice that this particular material had a order of 7 times in a year, 8 times 7, has the most occurring orders. We're almost done. I hope I'm not spinning your head in helping you setting up your forecasting. So anyway, next is the calculation of the average of total orders per year. There are two different ways to calculate the average. First is the average of monthly total orders excluding the empty order of a month in calculation. The second is the average of monthly total orders including the empty month treated as 0. So either way can be done depending on your preferences. So let's find a good example here based on the customer. So let's say Amazon has only a 12, 11, 12, 6 number of orders per year, or Valero. Okay, let's try Valero because it has a only 9 transaction and 12, 1 complete and 6. Let's filter, then keep only selected items, and let's see how it looks like. So it looks like this. Okay, let's write the DAX formula in our hidden worksheet. So first, let's assess the calculation manually as using the existing function of Excel, which is the average. First, let's calculate the average of these total orders. So essentially, this average function of Excel is excluding the empty cells. It's not treating them as 0. You can see here. Then the average trend rule, which is we need to get the sum of the total orders all throughout the year and log, then divided by, let's count the number of months available, which is 12 months. Essentially, it is 12 months. Then let's bring down. So basically, this is the result that we are looking for. Now, let's begin writing the DAX language using by accessing the data model. So let's put it here beside the linear trend and let's begin. Let's name it average trend and without zero. Okay, then simple last straight away use the average X function of DAX. Then so basically we're going to use the all selected based on this main date of selected start month there. Then the expression is simple as the total orders. Then that's it. Then enter. Then let's bring down this average into these values of pivot table box. Now we're getting the result same as what we calculated. Let's put it first one and that's it. 64.8. Now let's work out the second average, which is defined by the sum of the total orders divided by the number of months within the year. So let's go back to the data model and let's put our formula here just beside the average trend, and let's call it read blank. Yeah, it's a bad name, but for the sake of calculation, just accept this name. Okay, we begin using the divide function of DAX. Then the numerator, first parameter is the SumX. Then the table is all selected main date based on the start of the month. Then the expression is as usual total orders. Let's close it, then comma. Now let's work out this denominator. Denominator we can use Countrows. Then we need to use values because values need to convert this main date start of the month into numbers and count the number of months in a year. If you will not use these values, it rather count the number of days in a month, so it just return the number of days. Oh, by the way, we need to use calculate function because we cannot impose any filter table here, so we need the help from Mr. Calculate so that we can use this filter function. There, filter function, which is all selected, same as the denominator, and the main date is start of the month. Then that's it. Then enter. No errors. That's good. Then let's bring them all together here after the linear trend, and let's see how they look like. Oh yeah, see, 64.8 and 48.5 looks good. Now let's take a look here how they look like. Yeah, as expected, the average trend that exclude the empty months is higher than the average trend that includes the empty months, which is the yellow. Now we will going to make a separate worksheet for the average. So we just copy the whole two worksheet. Let's copy, make a copy, create a copy, then we just put it here in after the and we just rename it average. Okay, wrong. Let's say like that. There you are. Enter. Then this one, same average. Then oh, come on. Yes. Okay, looks good. So we need to remove this average trend in this linear trend chart so that it has a sole linear trend, while this average is we need to remove the linear trend here. This one we're no longer needing it. Let's focus on this first average without empty cells. You can actually put them both, depends on the preferences. Then here let's replace this linear trend by the average trend after the total orders. Then we just update the color. Looks good. Then let's make sure the font size is consistent. There you are. Looks fine.
Now the last thing need to do is to communicate or report all connection on the time frame. Then this as well. The material description, as you notice, material description is hiding at the back of customer because we will not using that often. This customer, same thing, report connection, everything. State, we just leave it disconnected. Yeah, we can connect it to table 1. Yeah, correct. Not for the table 3. This is the table 3. Then the city is everything. Now we can test our slicer, see if they are working. Yeah, they are working nicely. Valero. And this is the time that you can put this the material on top of it rather than the customer. There you are. Okay, in order to save column spaces, you can actually replace this material and material description by this material number and description. That's why we combine them so that more space to save. You notice here, and come on, faster. There you are. So all we need, remove the subtotal, then collapse. Okay, then we save spaces. So because the material description and the material number already combined.
So this is it. This is the average trend and this is the linear trend. So basically the difference is that the average trend doesn't have a slope. It has a flat slope. You notice here on the chart. Okay. We're almost done. So our user interface already completed the linear trend line and the average trend line. Then the last task to be done is to add a worksheet. This is where we put our pivot table to be formatted in tabular format so that it should be able to be read by ERP software. Let's name this worksheet as upload to ERP. Now before we proceed, let's hide these two worksheets that are supposed to be hidden. There you go. Now let's focus on timeline year 2021 only because we will do forecasting. The reason why until mid 2021 because this raw data was generated until mid-year of 2021 only, and we would like to do forecasting in the month of July or August or so on. Going back to this ERP worksheet, let's create the pivot table, insert pivot table, workbooks data model, existing worksheet. Then under the combined table again, let's include these states for the time being, just to simplify the forecasting of every state group. Okay, let's convert this pivot table right away into tabular form and also repeat all items. Then do not grand total, then do not show subtotal as well. Okay, let's connect this pivot table immediately to the other slicers from another worksheets so that it should update the filter immediately so as not to bother about the long list of items and data when we are working out this pivot table at the moment. So going here on the timeline, let's now connect individually the city as well, then also the state, then the customer, and the material number and description, which is I merged them. Okay, going back here, as you notice, the filter already inactive. Then let's continue to include the dates. Let's say start of the month here. Okay, then let's simplify the groupings first. Obviously, we are focusing on states only now. Now let's include the total orders into the values, then linear trend, and also the average trend. So it depends on you which average you want. The calculation of average without the zero or empty, or the average trend that includes the empty months as well. Then let's simplify the decimal into zero. Let's say with comma. Let's do this as well in linear trend number zero. Then that's it. Okay, our data is now shaping up. Let's say we would like to forecast the month of July and August by touching this timeline until August, and you will see the value here. The forecast is applicable for all the products and all the cities. You can expand the groupings at your own interest later by adding the product for city in this pivot table to do the forecasting. Okay, please do note reason why the actual orders in this month of July is small, because our data is produced until mid-year of 2021 only, which is June. This means the actual orders of July haven't transpired yet, so it's not yet complete. It means it will keep adding up. Okay, let's say we are interested on the top 3 product type volume runner of state of California. Let's say let's do this California. Then let's now include this material number after the state and also the material description into this row field. Then ensure there is no subtotal. Okay, we are only interested on top 3, which is let's now sort it from largest to smallest, and now you see the data, and I just wanted to keep the top 3 only. Then right click filter, keep only selected items, and now you see this top 3 volume runner of California state. So as you notice, the month of July and August already has the data on linear, and use this linear trend or average trend to fill these empty orders to do the forecasting. I think if you have enough data of at least 5 to 6 months, it should be okay to use this forecast method to roughly predict the orders if you deem this okay to use. Of course, there is the other way to nicely predict the forecast by using the ETS or exponential trickle smoothing. I will create a separate tutorial video on how to do this in the future, similar in this pivot table. So basically, this is how you play this pivot table in tabular format that can be read by ERP software. It depends on you which level you wanted to forecast, by state, by product, or by city. Just set up your ERP software that is able to read this worksheet in the month of July and August. Then off you go. In the future, I will make a separate tutorial video on how to set up your Power BI, similar to what we did with this Excel, with the map as well. Okay, so we now come to the end of this tutorial. I hope this is useful to your project in supply chain. So goodbye everybody. See you next time for next exciting data analysis.